Imagine waking up in a medieval village where life is simple yet incredibly tough. The peasant, often overlooked, is really the backbone of Europe, right? They're the ones who keep the fields thriving and the villages bustling, all while facing the whims of nature like those brutal famines and pesky plagues. You can almost feel their struggles, can't you? Before you drift off, maybe hit that like button if these tales bring a bit of calm to your night, and subscribe if they really resonate with you. I'd love to hear where you're tuning in from, so drop a note below. It's such a cozy thought to imagine friends around the world sharing this peaceful moment together. Now, let's step into their shoes for a second. Picture this. Dawn breaks, and the first light creeps in, not too gently. The rooster calls out, not with anger, but with a raw, piercing cry that slices through the misty air, reminding everyone that rest is just a fleeting memory. You get up from your straw pallet, feeling the soft rustle beneath you like whispers from the past. It's almost like the night, visitors the mice, or maybe a curious catar, saying goodbye as you start your day. And oh, the hearth. It's the heart of the home, always simmering with life. Imagine that warm glow and the smell of something hearty cooking. Eash morningstas pot. Waking up, the remnants of yesterday's meal grains that have soaked up time. Humble beans, earthy roats, and maybe even a few scraps that have blended into something comforting. The pot holds its contents with a gentle embrace, coaxing life from what's been there, layer upon layer. The taste? It's something special. A deep, warm hug for your insides, like the earth sighing in contentment. If luck is on your side, a lone carrot might float in there, its muted orange, a little burst of color against the otherwise pale mix. It's like a little reminder of brightness in the everyday grind. And then there's the bread. Oh man, bread is life, right? Mud from rye, tough grain that thrives in the field. Mixed with water and a sprinkle of necessity, this bread is dense and hearty. It's not the fluffy stuff you get at fancy bakeries. It's the kind that carries the grit of the millstone, grounding each bite in reality. It's a loaf that demands your patience to soften up, whether you dunk it in ale or pottage. Each chew becomes a meditation on perseverance. In tougher times, this bread might have been mixed with all sorts of things: ground beans, acorn meal, or even bark from trees. Can you imagine that? It's a testament to their quiet resolve to survive. And let's not forget about ergot, that sneaky fungus that could turn rye into a wild ride of visions and tremors, weaving through the village like a misty shadow. It's a reminder of how closely tied they were to their food and the land. But bread jus à mille, and it wasn't just something to fill your belly. It was a part of life itself, a connection to the earth. You can almost picture the skeletal remains of those who came before, their teeth worn down from years of chewing on this steadfast companion. And then there's the ale. Oh, sweet ale. It's like the morning's gentle embrace against the harshness of reality. Water from the stream, or well often held hidden, dangers like, germs from animals or whatever else was lurking. So boiling it became a ritual, turning those grains into something safer, bubbling with life's spark. It's low on the spirit-lifting scale, just enough to steady the pulse and carry a whisper of warmth. Even the kids would sip it, finding comfort in its mildness before they even learned to speak. Households brewed their own in clay pots, with yeast being a bit of a mystery, tamed only by habit. On first today, the ale flavour, almost thing the ties of them. But on regular mornings, it stayed humble just a watery, bread-kissed companion that saw them through the long hours of labor. In somom, de even a dismal beer vers keep through they. Be mid-morning, erven falk, perlaz, perlivecum. Not a feast, mind you, but a moment of solace. They didn't have lavish spreads. Instead, they made do with nature's humble offerings, scavenged in the soft light before the rooster's call faded. Maybe it was a raw onion, cradled like a treasure. Its sharpness brought tears not of sadness, but of release, as each crisp layer unfolded with every biter ritual of resilience amid the furrows. Or perhaps a wedge of cheese, aged in shadows or fresh and slick. Its texture would squeak under the knife, sturdy enough to remind them of the leather that had weathered many seasons. The remnants of yesterday's bread would still be around, hardened into something that could withstand time, chipped away with care, a portable guardian against hunger. It was versatile, just like the pouch that carried its soft leather, infused with the sense of past meals. Sometimes they'd have peas or broad beans, raw and sturdy, popping in their mouths with a nod to nature's quiet gifts. On rare occasions, a shred of salted fish might make an appearance, slow-cooked and rich with memories from distant waters. This little interlude of food didn't promise triumph. It was more about postponing hunger, creating a bridge of bare vitality that would last until evening. And as the day rolled on, the pottage would simmer again in the hearth's glow, creating a rhythm that defined the peasant's life, slow, enduring, and layered like a tapestry woven from dawn to dusk under those vast, unhurried skies. So, can you feel it? The simplicity and the depth of their existence. It's a life that teaches us so much about resilience and the beauty of everyday moments. What do you think? Isn't it fascinating how their struggles and triumphs echo through time, reminding us of the strength found in community and the shared human experience? Peasants seldom paused to savor their mid-morning bite. No quiet benches or shaded rests awaited them. They chewed on the move, amid the sway of scythe or the bend of back over furrow. Sweat tracing slow paths down weathered skin, earth yielding grudgingly under calloused hands. Life in those shadowed ages flowed as one endless labor, a rhythm without mercy or modern balm. No gains in vigor, only the steady toll of bone and breath. Thus, that fleeting snack lingered not as respite, but a muted plea woven into the cheese's faint tongue, or the onion's veiled sting, sustaining just enough to carry the body onward, through the haze of dawn's labors. By the time midday shadows lengthened, softly across the fields the peasant had already woven a full measure of toil. Plough turned deep in reluctant soil, seeds pressed into earth's cool embrace, burdens hauled from well, or wood axes biting into timber, shovels turning clay, milk drawn warm from restless beasts. And perhaps, in some hidden hollow, a tear shed unseen, mingling with the dew. Lunch emerged then, not as triumph, but quiet acceptance. Approached like gathering clouds on the horizon, or the Lord's distant summons with calm surrender, knowing the unyielding cycle turned regardless. The midday pottage mirrored dawn's own, yet warmed now by hours of hearth-glow, its depths brooding deeper. Flavors settled into layered awareness, earthy and unyielding. No table rose to greet it. The ground sufficed, cool dampness seeping through rough weave, chairs a whisper for those with coin and straighter spines. Before you a wooden bowl cradled the stew, thick as gathered, mist dense enough to hold a spoon upright, in silent vigil its heart unchanged barley pearls swollen, slow beans yielding their humble. Store vegetables coaxed forth by season's reluctant hand, portions measured just so, enough to bind muscle to task, yet sparing any spark of contentment. If mercy granted metre rare, veil parting it came not whole or succulent, but a slender thread of salt pork, cured through long winters into something eternal, unsoftened by time or tenderness, chewing unfolded as meditation, endless, questioning if life had ever pulsed within, yet prized for its faint pulse of salt amid the neutral tide, a flavour born of endurance. Bread might join the bowl at times, though midday had hardened its edges further. Crust like weathered stone from some forgotten rampart, demanding immersion in the pottage's warmth to yield even slightly, transforming not to softness, but reluctant compliance. This meal offered no renewal, no surge of light. Merely the anchor against collapse amid the furrows, a bridge of bare necessity. Rising afterward, joints creaked like ancient oak gates in the abbey wind, carrying you back to the fields on threads of resolve and a belly forged for quiet suffering. To eat, as they did, meant yielding to the season's slow wheel, each turning with its own shadowed palette of scarcity, produce fading into memory, harvests whispering threats of surrender beneath indifferent skies. Summer unfolded in gentle theory as the kinder breath crop stirring green in sunlight's patient gaze. Beasts grazing through longer days, a faint glow piercing the veil of endurance. Yet even ten Bautrencher, peas swelled in pods, beans climbed humble trellises. Leeks rose pale from moist earth, cabbage heads formed tight against the breeze, spared perhaps by vigilant watch from garden's edge. Fresh-bulled, mere moments from soil's grasp. They carried the raw kiss of farrow-vivid green, yet woven with earth's subdued monotone, sustaining without flourish. Autumn followed, a season of shadowed gratitude and quiet dread. Harvest's call demanding backs bent low till spines ached like old parchment, yet yielding the year's deepest stores. Roots delved deep, fruits hung heavy in twilight orchards, nuts gathered from wood's floor, mushrooms unfurling pale beneath leaf drift. Nature's gifts coaxed forth before the chill deepened. Preservation became ritual, then salt drawn across surfaces in crystalline veils, smoke curling slow through rafters. Cellars carved chill into hillside earth, or simple faith against time's creep, yet optimism faltered often. Autumn's promise soured to mold's faint bloom, summer's vigor wilting into subdued echoes. Winter descended as the true spectre over hearth and board dot. Frost-laced winds sealing fields in silence, meals reduced to survival's etched lines. Salt claimed all fish drawn from icy depths, pork threaded lean through the cure, every morsel armored against decay. Vegetables endured as turnips, pale orbs tasting of frost-bitten hollows, onions sharp as winter's edge, wielded like quiet wards. Bread set harder than frozen rill, pottage thinned to spectral broth, hope a candle guttering low. Feast days pierced the gloomer single roast savour. Crackling, brief, amid the vigil yet, one glow scarcely thawed 90 nights of lean vigil. Spring whispered last, the lean gap known as hunger's hush. Winter's cellars echoing empty, new shoots teasing green yet unripe, beasts gaunt shadows on sparse pasture. Weeds rose first then, not as chosen forage, but earth's defiant gift whatever green, the verge became fair, bitter or bland, punishment cloaked as providence. Thus flowed the peasant's seasons, not curated by whim or glow of modern hearth, but shaped by famine's shadow. Frost's unyielding grip, the eternal dance where nature held the measure, often leading ungentle steps. The vegetable patch stirred no visions of tended paradise, no neat beds bursting colour, no rare fruits basking in clay's embrace, no fragrant leaves swaying in crafted breeze. This was battleground soil, a modest square ringed by woven fence, where human will clashed soft against nature's wild claim, yielding often to her patient triumph. Vegetables chosen not for savour, but sheer tenacity. Thriving in poor tilth, beneath erratic skies, their taste a mirror to hardship muted, functional, born of survival alone. Turnips reigned as unyielding sovereigns. Unloved through ages, yet defiant drought-scarred fields they endured, frost-rimed nights they weathered. Blows they shrugged like earth's own kin, unkillable sentinels of the root. Leeks followed, pale shafts from sodden earth. Seasonings humble kin to onions bite, dipped in melancholy, long and yielding, destined for the boil's forgiving depths. Peasants layered them into pottage, feigning enhancement, though truth lay in their steadfast presence. Cabbage swelled forth, broad heads watery and resolute, exhaling faint protest at the knife's edge, sturdy spheres guarding modest hearts. Beans and peas filled the rose-nut crisp delights of later gardens. But medieval kin, chalky firm, laced with faint regret. Yet swelling bellies against the void, cherished for bulk alone, herbs eluded the common plot. Luxuries of the manor, tended by skilled hands in lordly earth, labour borrowed unwitting from field folk. Flavour sought through salt's dear pinch, or illusion's gentle veil, the latter oft prevailing in the simmer. Pests claimed their share unbidden rabbits darting twilight bounds, rats threading night paths, insects veiling leaves, birds wheeling sharp. The plot a feast for all save its tenders. Half the yield fed wild kin, the rest dissolved into pottage, without altering its sombre tone, tending demanded dawn to dusk vigil. Bending low through mist, hauling water in rhythmic sway, weeding amid dew-kissed earth, coaxing reluctant growth with murmured oaths at stubborn stalks. Reward arrived, meagre clutch of roots and greens, flavour like sodden parchment softened by rain. Labour's quiet crown, yielding sustenance draped in mediocrity. Meat hovered as legend, more than loaf. A winter, firelit murmur, tasted perhaps monthly if heaven's tilted kind. Peasants tread so light on flesh that latter-day ascetics might deem them lavish. Beasts in yard or wild belonged, not to hand, but lordly decree. Deer, threading forest gloom, rabbits mocking fence gaps, boar rending barriers all his shadowed claim, to take without leave spelled poaching's grim toll. Sell or severed limb, the hushed price. Thus, scraps sustained pork fat rendered slow, salted rinds or offal shunned by whole. No noble cuts graced trencher. Instead, gelatinous slivers, mummified in salt's eternal grasp, unyielding to tooth or time, preserved for realms beyond the veil. No succulent juices awaited. This was sustenance daring the jaw to persist, a test woven into every preserved thread. Chicken drifted through lives as fleeting visitor. Hens cherished for their steady rhythm of eggs, slaughtering one akin to scattering hard-won coin into winter's wind. Beef remained earth's distant myth. Oxen too vital for plough and burden, their strength bound to field and furrow. Mutton yielded only when sheep faltered claimed by folly, fever, or fate's quiet, whim-transforming loss into lean necessity. Fresh flesh stirred to life in autumn's waning light. Slaughter, season, unfolding gentle yet grim. As beasts met, blade before frost could claim them fully, their forms spared prolonged suffering in the chill's embrace. On such hushed days, organs emerged from shadow-liver dark, and yielding, kidneys nestled deep, heart pulsing memory into the pot. Nothing parted from the whole save hoof or hide's unyielding frame. All else simmered into communal grace, woven into the hearth's eternal vigil. Fish swam freer through peasant days, elusive from lordly grasp, their slippery forms belonging more to river's murmur than manner's decree. Eels twisted from muddy depths, carp hauled slow through net's patient weave, whatever the waters offered amid whispered pleas. Yet swift to spoil under open sky, most bound in salt's crystalline shroud, hardening into chew's prolonged ritual, resilient as weathered leather. True, revelry bloomed on holy days alone. When flesh graced trencher proper, songs rose soft through smoke-hazed rafters. And, for a breath, the body forgot its pottage-forged resilience, lost in rare warmth and fleeting song. Yet, in woven days, meat lingered as echo, a hearthside dream, memory of savour claimed by those with fuller larders, distant kin to the trencher's humble yield. For the field-bound soul, it transcended meal, becoming, moment, etched rare against time's quiet scroll. If one steadfast thread bound protein to bone, calcium to sinew, and faint shadows of trial to the spirit, it flowed from cheese, Not the gilded rounds or silken blooms of later tailies, but a kin apart, forged in earth's ungentle forge. This dairy's form carried the weight of journeys endured, beckoning the hand with quiet challenge. Cheese stirred from milk's fleeting grace, Necessity's hand curdling what warmth spoiled swift. Winter's lean yield demanding preservation's art. Peasants coaxed curds deliberate, pressed them close in cloth's embrace, dried slow under rafter shade, salted against unseen foes, then entrusted to time's patient hand. What emerged stood as cheese in name, humble guardian of the stores. Two veils cloaked its being fresh and aged, each laced with nature's subtle trials. Fresh cheese gathered soft and wan, lumpy as gathered mist, flavour a murmur mild yet shadowed, poised on edge of peril, breeze or gaze enough to stir unrest. It fled swift as dawn's first light, devoured hasty amid watchful eyes, lest it turn against the morrow. Aged kin hardened, resolute. Wheels matured long on shadowed shelf, birthing character sharp and deep, dense as yew's heartwood, warding arrow or feud's flung wrath. Dropped, it scarred the board. Hurled, it sealed old grievances. Tailies whisper peasants braved winter, not on bounty's wing, but cheese's armoured vigil. Edible bulwark, through frost-laced nights, purity wandered free. Pails merely brushed of dew, vats rinsed in streams, chill flow, moulds claiming corners unbidden. When character bloomed to vivid, the knife carved gentle arcs around wakeful veins, yielding still to the wheel's core. Yet cheese endured as pillar, portable through field mist, swelling the frame where bread faltered, a miracle softer to tooth. Wedged firm, it shadowed the labourer dawn to dusk, outlasting tempests minor and grand. Whey's soup graced some hearths, cheese-making's pale remainder, warmed faint, salted spare, sipped with calm accord to fate's design, value deep, this dairy kin sustained without strife. Rare ally in the cottage's shadowed rhythm. When garden whispered defeat, beasts eluded grasp, and hearth echoed recycled sighs. The wilds beckoned final. Foraging unfolded as ancient rite. Threading wood and hedgerow, rivers bend, a wonder born of hollow belly and earth's veiled consent. Essential shadow, peril's companion, yield as fickle as mist. Nature held no pact with hunger, her calendar etched in leaf and loam alone. Year upon year, souls ventured soft. Forests cloaked in autumn haze, hedges thorn-laced at twilight, banks misted by dawn's river breath. seeking what green or fruit might yield, or feign edibility through half-closed eye. Berries crowned, the glean small kin to sweeter airs, tart and watchful. Fingers stained violet as twilight's bruise, worms within deemed kin protein, earth's grudging, boon revealing hardship's measure, nuts gleamed rarer jewel. Hazelnuts clustered brown, in leaf drift, walnuts heavy, from boughs curve prized for more. Barter's tour, of long geste quinoa. Yet, harvest waged, subtle war. Squirrels fierce sentinels of the wood, medieval or timeless, guarding hoard with unyielding gaze, herbs wove uncertain veil. Leaves gathered half-known, some lending pottage faint lift, others ushering spirits swift to divine realms untimely. Knowledge passed as fireside murmur, guess veiled in peril's hush. Mushrooms loomed as fate's wheel. Bellies fill or earth's cold claim, lore threaded generation deep, yet memory faltered soft. Bold voices proclaimed safety's mark. Hours later, colours unborn danced through village gloam. Roots like wild garlic's green spear or burdoc's hidden coil shone prize-like. Unearthed through scrape of bent tool on unyielding clay, akin to delving ancient soil for whispers lost. Foraging transcended fill. Survival's breath, village saviour some seasons, reaper veiled in others when berry, bowl, or bloom exacted quiet toll. Through bramble's grasp, beast's shadowed path, peasants persisted ... Wild offerings coaxed reluctant, for hunger wove not as pang, but life's patient tapestry. Dinner closed, the circle gentle. No triumphant curtain, no hearthside revel or solace deep. Simply pottage renewed, sequel unbidden yet, inevitable, bubbling patient in pot's eternal watch. By twilight's hush, it deepened layered ... Simmered through sun's arc, drawing every root's remnant, grain's patient pearl, kitchen's side echoes into fold. Texture thickened to earth's own mortar, flavour paradox veiled potent, yet faint. Dense through watery veil, bland overwhelming, sustenance laced with spirit's quiet bend. Table emerged humble. Plank hewn rough, feigning board's grace, bowl timber carved, whispering trees faint memory. Ladle bestowed measure generous in name alone. Scoop from depths, trusting slide to wooden hold. Contents shifted with day's whisper barley dominant, turnips pale rain, or pure endurance's tone. Boiled beyond recall, vegetables yielded form, hue, awareness ... Beige haze unified, confusion rendered edible. Bread's remnant, if spared, dipped reverent. Softening crust's fortress edge, illusion of grace fleeting as it melted home. Meat's trace miracle rare. Pork fat's faint sheen, bone boiled ancestral. Weary through cycles yet present stirred hearth's quiet spark. Marrow's echo lifting shadowed eyes. Silence cloaked the right. Not peace profound, but energy's thrift. Spoons tracing wood's grain, backs easing with faint groan on stools time-worn before script's birth. Bowls emptied left, not fullness, but void lessened softly. Hunger parleyed, not quelled, fuel gathered for morrow's call. More simmer, chew, endurance's weave. Yet, amid toil's hush, feast days gleamed sacred. Cherished not for frequency-s grace it came, spare but for that singular breath, where joy-s echo brushed the peasant soul. Vague kin to happiness unfolding slow under revel's lantern glow. Feast days were like these cozy, secret holidays filled with delicious spreads, right? But they weren't happening in fancy halls or sunlit beaches. Nope, they unfolded in churchyards wrapped in that dreamy twilight mist, on earth floors softened by the footsteps of generations. The church had this special power over the joy-filled calendar, granting permission to celebrate when the stars aligned just right. Picture this: peasants gathering early, dressed in their cleanest tunics, with threads mended and holes stitched up. Their hearts were all in sync with the promise of the day ahead. These feasts spilled over, with abundant stables groaning under the weight of dreams turned into real food. No more gnawing on crusts or staring longingly at shadows. This was the real deal. Meat was the star of the show chunks, roasted whole, not just tiny slivers or whispers of bone. Imagine pork turning slowly over the fire, fat dripping down like golden, morning light streaming through stained glass. That was a miracle to savor. Chickens were bursting with herbs you'd only find in the manor's secret garden, and there might even be thick cuts of beef, passed around like a blessed relic, its flavor lingering long after it left your mouth. And oh, the pies! They came out warm from the oven, pastries cradling savory hearts of meat and root vegetables, all mixed with a sprinkle of hope. The rich aromas curled through the air like forgotten prayers, wrapping everyone in a comforting embrace. Then there were the sweets honey cakes shining like amber, fruit tarts bursting with tart memories, and puddings made from luxuries that brushed against the edge of sin. Their warmth felt like a gentle hug for the soul as for the ale. It wasn't some watery stuff. It was the kind that flowed like a celebration itself, enough to loosen up the limbs for some awkward yet enthusiastic dancing under the lantern's glow. You could feel the joy in the air, steps weaving through the crowd, laughter mixing with whispered arguments, and warm embraces shared among friends. It was like the medieval version of a big family reunion, where the weight of the world just melted away, if only for a little while. Kids darted around, sticky fingers from all the sweets, while elders spun tailies filled with just a pinch of exaggeration. Even the animals looked on, puzzled by all the unfamiliar smiles blooming around them. But, as with all good things, the music eventually faded. The fires dimmed to a soft glow, and the remnants of the feast disappeared faster than spring's first thaw. Still, in that quiet space left behind, peasants tasted the echoes of life, a whisper of something more than just the daily grind. Preservation became a solemn rite in autumn, not just about savoring, but about making a pact with the winter that was creeping in. It was a careful balance, weighing the harvest against the unyielding gaze of the sky, wondering what might last through the frost. 3 guardians emerged in this struggle: salt, smoke, and prayer. Salt was the first, the ultimate protector. It manded mea, Sinbautumdi allowed it. It was precious, like the first light of dawn, and when it was sprinkled, it was like sealing a promise, keeping the flesh safe for eternity. Months later, you'd hope it would cradle life instead of echoing failure. Then came smoke, patiently wrapping the flesh, infusing it with flavor that lingered long after the last bite. It was a slow dance with time, transforming the meat into something timeless, even as the microbes did their work. You could almost taste the history in every chew, a reminder of life's quiet seal. Drying was another game. Apples were sliced thin. Bean and peas lagen de sans gelukt en kies, shrivelly in the breeze. But sometimes, uninvited guests would join the party bugs and critters sneaking in, adding a little texture to the mix. Some yields twisted defiantly. Barrels swelled with inner breath, jars sighed ominously, and loaves grew fuzzy like a winter pelt. In those moments, prayer deepened, becoming a soft companion to denial. Odd scents mingled with murmured grace, and even the odd-looking swine became a fervent plea for mercy. That s how preservation endured not for the sake of flavour, but for dignity through winter's watchful eye. If the stores whispered of salt, smoke, and dread, success was etched in the calm of survival. As evening fell, the hollow feeling returned, not just a pang, but a deep void telling tales of woe. Tired limbs ached from the day's labour, and the evening's bite felt fragile. Hope cradled in the meagre crumbs left behind. The rare hand of fortune might grant a piece of bread, but it was often cold and hard, a relic of what once was, standing guard against the night's thief. Negotiation unfolded with each bite, a slow grind of jaw against the stubborn bread, like a river carving through stone over eons. Sometimes the roasted onion took center stage, caramel-kissed and savored with wide eyes. The humble hearth becoming a theatre where peasants crowned it as their feast's highlight, pretending it was the nectar of the gods amidst their poverty. Ale filled the cups on those fuller evenings, not just for revelry, but as a soothing balm to the day's edge. Even the young ones took a sip, avoiding the peril of plain water, which might bring unseen shadows creeping in. Colder kin stirred less often, their pottage chilled to a quiver's moral haze. Gazing at each other in the flickering candlelight, sharing a silent pact over their meagre meals. The void felt starkest then, just air and echoes of sighs, bodies reclining on fragile wishes for the next day, hoping for a rabbit's errant path or a bartered egg, or even cabbage stretching toward midnight. Hope wove itself into the very fabric of their existence, whispering earth's quiet law. Yet the right held true. The sustenance was scant, just enough to cradle the whisper of sleep and provide energy for the dawn's mirrored weave. Night wrapped the village softly. Every ache, threading through their fibres, feet bruised by the earth's kiss, backs bent in eternal labour, pride softened, and hunger pacing in the shadows. Then came the final vigil, a late ale that spoke of endurance, lacking in finery or refreshing chill. But its presence felt like a blessing, the cup held reverently, a potion that intertwined saviour and solace. Each sip unfurled the murmurs of barley and smoke, the vessel's faint memory lingering in the air, if it had been cleansed at all. Warmth spread through their tired bodies, quieting the stomach's clamour and easing the sinews from the day's tight grip. Regret began to weave itself gently, not the weight of the cosmos, but the simple turn of the cycle tomorrow's pottage. The unyielding block of bread, the onion's vigil, and the endless breath of labour. Another draught blurred the edges of reality, smoothing out the corners. Sleep beckoned softly, the straw pallet crunching like leaves underfoot, the scent of livestock and smoke mingling in the air. Prickles found, nerves unknown, shifting until they found a bearable truce. The blanket, coarse and woolly, became a quiet foe, laden with itches and profound weight, while unseen insects thrived in the night. Yet, amid all this, warmth bloomed deep, cradling them through the unhurried vigil of the night, a reminder that even in the simplest moments, life thrived, weaving its rich tapestry through the quiet of existence. You curl beneath the wool's heavy fold. Breath's evening, slow in the cottage's hush village sounds. Drifting soft like, mist through thatch distant snores rumbling from neighbors' walled chickens. Clucking faint in their roost a lone dog, baying low at shadows only its eyes perceive, ghosts woven from moonlight's veil. Your stomach stirs with a quiet growl, deep and insistent, yet met with patient disregard. Tomorrow holds sustenance once more, not lavish, not refined, but measure enough to bind the dawn, eyes ease shut gentle. Ale's warm tide drawing you under, regret dissolving like frost in first light. With one final breath, a whispered right escapes. May tomorrow's pottage carry less the weight of sorrow. Antenne. Sleep claims its gentle reign. Marco Polo never set those words plain upon the page. I stepped within the great Khan's harem, for such confession would have vanished him swift into some windswept Mongol steppes hush. Yet, through his notes, those veiled passages cloaked as mere wanderer's gaze. Fissures open wide, revealing a realm veiled deep. Forbiddance to all save silk-draped women, eunuchs bearing memory's flawless thread, and the emperor's most cherished enigmas. And there, in strokes half hidden, Marco unveils sights no courtly stranger should claim. Unless drawn perilously near, beyond protocol's unyielding silk. He speaks of chambers arrayed like petals unfolding from a hidden heart. Poetry, at first whisper, until shadowed against Yuan Hall's true form circular wings blooming from pavilion's core, each graced to concubine's ranked veil. Women shift their robes with season's breath, he notes. Fabrics palace-bound alone light silk's whispering spring's thaw, quilted brocades heavy for winter's grasp, scented cottons reserved for the Khan's chosen shadows. How might a merchant, from distant, seize no such intimacy, ... unless a curtain parted soft, inviting his gaze. Strangest, still drift his words on fragrance, ... Scents layered as ancient, melody, detail born of nearness profound. The Mongol harem, breath perfume's strict code. High consorts cloaked in musk's deep earth, and ambergrise's sea-warmed glow, less akin to iris water's pale bloom or rose's fleeting sigh, servants barred entirely from aroma's grace. Such laws hid behind silk's eternal fold, no marketplace murmur. Yet Marco pens them, casual as papers worth in crowded square. His voice shifts here. From trader's ledger to hush of witness cautious, tender, eyes lowered yet watchful, voices schooled to still tempests. Rooms where emperor dwells never lone, silence reigning absolute. These murmurings speak not rumor's echo, but breath of one who lingered close, feeling the chamber's pulse. Thus the first enigma of Polo's shadowed script unfolds serene. If harem doors stayed sealed against him, why does his quill trace shadows flickering scarce inches from his face? Where first hints whisper nearness, deeper notes unveil hierarchy's veiled scaffold. Tears of grace, favor, chastisement, the ladder each concubine climbed in dream or dread. Caught, scrolls etched stark in clerk's dry hand, ... But Marco's breath life into the weave, lived, beheld. Closest to Khan glide those whose steps bend floors beneath. The four senior consorts, power second to empress alone, shadows wielding state's quiet reign, beneath, ladies of twilight wait. Jai and Zhao rang, mid-veil favorites catching imperial glance through moons, faded by single dawn's mist. Outer, blooms he names garden's flowers. Lowest kin, drawn from conquered realms, tributes gentle offering, daughters bartered for favor's thread. Silk cloaked their forms, yet fear stirred constant ... Missteps glance, whisper caught by servant's ear, assent shattered before bloom. Even unspoken ranks he traces ... Women's own decree, beyond emperor's seal perfume's measured gift, dancers chosen for festival's sway, judgment on who graced Khan's side. Denied, by sisters, no rise awaited evermore. Affection's coin, he charts soft. Gold thread silk bolts, Tibetan musk jars for highborn, hairpins, fans, mirrors faint for lesser tokens binding order more than heart's true fire. Emperor's gaze flowed as market tide. Fortunes waxing, waning through night's veil. Even silence bears rank among them, he breathes. Words of one who watched whispers curl, glances weave rituals hush. Stepped he through guarded silk, or lingered near enough to catch what others lost. His script seals it certain. Harem, not mere hall, but power's shadowed stage, desire shaped, ruled, honed to blade's keen edge. Strangest revelations breathe through scent alone. Not gem or gesture, but aroma's invisible script. This unveils his trespass deep closer than foreign foot should tread. Yuan court's perfume wove no idle luxury, ... Language etched in air, ranks code, weapon veiled. Marco charts it precise, as one who inhaled its layers firsthand. A woman's presence stirs before her step crosses threshold, he murmurs. Nodding, hierarchy's unyielding law. High consorts claimed, bold tides announcing path Tibetan, musk's wild depth. Ambergris from ocean's hoard, dragon's brain, resin for emperor's soul elect, scents not entering rooms. Claiming them whole, layered potent, unforgettable, some whispers spring, others dawn after rain, follows soft. Mid-ranks lighter, breath iris water's cool veil, osmanthus oils bloom, cloves faint spark, sweet flags hush. Desirable yet, yielding, they sighed rather than stormed. Subtleties he grasps flawless. Yet lowest unveil, most o'er bare, for fragrance worn without right steel's crown unbidden, rule ironclad ... Rice water cleansed their form unscented, cedar chests lent soul whisper to robes. Overreach spelled punishments, shadow ambition stain, deceit, seduction untimely. Seasonal tides he notes too. Winter's warming cloak of cinnamon, musk. Summer's cool lotus, sandalwood breath as palace simmered. Each aroma served purpose deep, meaning woven through air's flow. Careless near end, some scents linger skinward long after woman fades. No distant lore births such line. Proximity betrays itself to near for traveller's tale. If perfume traced rank, loyalty's trials unveiled survival's fragile thread. Marco's quill grows hushed here, as if ink itself might stir great wrath. Yet metaphors veil truth clear to patient eye harems, hidden gears turning soft in shadowed light. The contrasts no heart unweighed, he breathes. Veil lifting to multi-veil oaths sifting, meek from bold. First, silence's vigil. Gatherings where women pooled still as midnight mere, ripple none unless summoned. Literal rite. Attendants watched endurance motionless poise, voiceless patience, impatience veiled. Watching how they tended one another in shadowed moments. Voices unfolding soft, when authority's gaze turned elsewhere, unguarded breaths weaving fragile bonds amid the silk. A woman, revealing envy's flicker, vanity's subtle bloom, or cruelty's veiled edge, fell swift from grace ... The emperor sought loyalty pure, intrigues shadows shunned. Marco's most hushed murmur touches the trial unspoken, passed in glances alone. Scholars whisper of body's vow, ensuring no lover's trace, no hidden tie, no seed not con's own stirred within. Examinations gentle yet unyielding, washings overseen in steam's soft veil. Movements bound within palace's labyrinthine fold. Exclusivity etched absolute. These rites transcended trial. Filters refining hundreds to circle trusted, inner sanctum's quiet glow. Marco traces them, not as distant echo, but air laced with waiting's breath, tension behind gesture's flawless arc. No stranger pens fear so vivid, unless walked beside its hush, feeling pulse beneath poise. If concubines gleamed as harems veiled stars, eunuchs formed its unseen gravity. constant, silent, inescapable tide drawing all to throne's heart. Marco's quill sharpens here, respect laced with subtle awe, as if grasping these half-servant, half-shadows as true wardens of emperor's private realm. Men gliding shadow-soft yet bearing sun's full weight. Poetry mirroring paradox profound. Eunuchs claimed no kin, no lineage, no clan's protective veil incorruptible, in sovereign gaze, breath's owed palace alone. Marco senses this deep, hinting harems veil parted not without their nod. Impossible to near sands blessing veiled. He charts there, flawless recall. Names etched eternal, sense layered in memory, footfalls distinct as whispers, each lowered gaze's subtle curve. Schooled to trace irregularity's faintest thread, hearing what others sense alone. They cradled baths in steams, embrace, dressing chambers ritual hush. Teches mazured flon imperial. Deviations breath, movement unblessed, interaction shadowed all erased traceless by their hand. Most entrancing linger ritual duties. Keepers of purity overseeing quarters sacred bound, barring outsiders' step. Woman's flight sands leave. Marco evokes corridors veiled narrow veins, threading single form, there's alone to haunt or manifest at whim. Echoes Yuan, scrolls labyrinth below women's wings, service paths coiled unseen, eunuchs wove nightly choice too. Chambers readied pre-summon, attire weighed flawless, hairs braid inspected, perfumes measure true, logs etched secret. Nothing graces emperor untouched by them first, he breathes. Law sealed from foreign eye, save one lingering near their right, or shadowed by their watch. Yet keenest cuts, soft words. Yet each shatters realms. Information, there's to cradle rumor quale, schedules veiled, access granted or barred. Whisper, from eunuch's lip lifted or shattered soul, power known deep. Marco's clarity defies merchant's veil, to near operations pulse, perilously close. In courts shadowed, emperor's knights hid rumor, dashed deep. Yet Yuan's danced ceremonial half-right, half-vigilant gaze, Marco unveils with forbidden's grace. Ours palace breathes altered, first-hand witness or ear pressed perilously near. Emperor chose not on whim's breath. Decision woven hours prior, by eunuch's loom, attendant's thread, consort's nod. Desire flows river guided, manifold, hinting politics current. Alliances bend, hierarchies sway shaping summons as mood's gentle tide. Right dawned purifications hush. Baths in lotus-warmed depth, silkwood's faint sight. Skin, dried cloths kissed lightly, lest overpower, sovereign sense. Hair, braided pattern simple for low veils, elaborate, for favoured bloom, jade pins highborn alone. Misplaced gleam, spelled envy or reach to bold. Marco's nuance whispers any AR, nesis ... No envoy's tale bears such weight, comness etched imperial creed ... Eunuch's traced expression, pre-passage lips tremor, blinks haste, pulses hurried beat, spelling banish swift. Faces painted discipline, not hue, keen etch of stillness schooled for presence divine. Journey wove ceremony deep. Born not walking, quilted shroud pure, feet earth denied, eunuch's lifted eyes low. Secret ferried, not woman striding, fascination true. Yuan annals echo, yet European quills grasp hint's ear or eye direct, beyond expected veil. Intimate a seal, chosen spoke, not unbidden. Silence no meek bow, but protocol's breath. Desire flowed effortless to throne, plea less, unperformed. Marco's recount whispers trespass profound ... Lingered to near shadowed rites, beyond strangers bound. Where order gleams in prior script, chaos stirs beneath ... Rivalries coiled, jealousies veiled, subtle wars amid women, nearer power than scribes, freer than chained yet bound deeper. Harem, gardens where blooms vied single sun. Beauty coin, favor breath, neglect slow fading. Fiercest phrase not high-low span, but neighbor ranks, near grasp ambitions taste to vivid. Joy, beside Jiao rang shared attendant's hand, corridors echo, melodies tutor. Dread one Eve's choice lifts one, freezes kin eternal, smiles wide to cloak teeth, courtesies mask for blade's keen edge. Battlegrounds threefold, form, sway, whisper. Form first they carved silence keen as tress, discipline trumping bloom. Gaze held, flawless signaled poise. Envy's glint drew shadow's eye. Grace weaponed, soft motion harmless yet seen, reminding throne and throng of breath still drawn. Sway wove subtler. Seniors meted melody masters, stitch supplies, dance's measured turn, perfumes drop. Resource spared, sabotaged rivals' imperial bid. Guidance whispered to shadow alone, sabotage sister cloaked. Deadliest realm, rumor's silent dart, words wounded handless. Hint of overreach, heart's frailty, clanti lingering, doomed soft, unraveling ascent unheard. The emperor never heard the whispers directly. Instead, eunuchs and senior consorts bore them upward like drifting smoke. Marco, listening from places no visitor should tread, noted that no lie travels faster than one spoken softly. Yet, he adds a quietly tragic truth, even enemies braid each other's hair. The harem forced closeness. Rivals shared chambers, meals, tutors, and rituals. They sang together as dusk settled, practiced dances in careful harmony, knelt side by side in solemn ceremonies. There, hatred was delicate, softened beneath layers of silk and ceremony. Marco captures this paradox perfectly. Women bound in unity, yet locked in quiet contest for the favor of a man who would long outlive them all. If rivalry wove the daily fabric of the harem, rumor was its deadliest thread. Here, Marco's notes sharpen, as if pressing to capture every detail, either from what he witnessed firsthand or words whispered close. He writes, "In this place, a single word weighs more than a swordand. In the Yuan harem, that was no metaphor. Rumors were not aimless. They were launched like arrows. A concubine seeking to weaken another avoided action herself. Instead, she planted a seed through a eunuch, a lady in waiting, or a musician gliding silently between rooms." Marco describes these messengers weaving songs, stories, and secrets, carrying them as effortlessly as air flows through the open palace halls. The terror lay in rumor's plausible deniability. No one ever traced its origin, only its swift descent. The deadliest accusation was disloyalty, not toward the emperor, but toward the unspoken order of the harem. A whispered claim that a woman spoke ill of another consort, resented a gift, or shed hidden tears after dismissal could mark her as unstable. Marco writes that even sorrow was dangerous if witnessed by the wrong eyes. Rival whispers summoned closer watch. A eunuch might shadow her steps. A senior consort could restrict her access to perfume or attendance, small punishments that painted guilt in silence. More lethal still was the suggestion that a woman harbored lingering attachment, a man from her homeland, a secret token from a past life. Marco notes this with unexpected empathy, acknowledging that memory itself was no crime, but it could be wielded as one. Such accusations, even if unfounded, could exile a concubine from imperial favor indefinitely. The most insidious whisper was what Marco calls the shadow without a source, a label of misfortune rather than guilt. A woman passed over, for a season, might be deemed cold of spirit, a slight illness reframed as spiritual taint. Once cast, these rumors spread contagiously. No one wished to be seen with the marked. Many feared these whispers more than death, for death brought final peace, but rumor prolonged slow fading. A woman, destroyed by rumor, did not vanish. She dissolved quietly, painfully, into shadow. Marco closes this chapter with an unsettling line. In a palace of 1,000 lamps, the darkest rooms are made of words. His notes on the harem end veiled so deeply that scholars still debate their nature memory, metaphor, confession. But read closely, and one thing becomes clear. These were no casual traveler, subservation. They were forbidden writings by a man who saw too much. He admits certain palace halls were guarded not by stone, but by silence. This reveals his knowledge came not from official guides, but whispered secrets exchanged in darkness. He speaks of doors that open only when the moon rises high, of nightly movements through corridors only he or those watching with him could glimpse. His curiosity was dangerous, yet something or someone kept feeding it. The most tantalizing confession appears almost casually. I once saw lantern light where no lantern should be. What was he doing, moving through restricted halls at night? Why did a concubine's chamber feature in his notes with such clarity? These questions have haunted historians for centuries. Marco also chronicles secrets women entrusted to no man, yet he lists routines, perfumes, rivalries, and fears with disarming precision. Was he a keen listener to gossip, or did he have a source inside those forbidden walls? The tone hints at the latter. He describes a voice soft as folded silk telling stories. The palace itself forgot a woman, a servant, a eunuch, amused by him. Every possibility carries risk. Then comes the most startling line. A single glance taught me more than a week of listening. Glances demand proximity, sight lines, presence. Marco's notes on hidden architecture deepen this, curved doorframes carved with phoenix motifs, embroidered screens showing lovers divided by rivers, corridors lined with perfumed cloth all belonging to women's quarters, shielded from diplomats and foreign eyes alike. Yet Marco catalogues them with the precision of one sketching from memory. Still, he never claims authority. He hides behind modesty, claiming this knowledge came from humble reports. But his writing betrays him. Where others read rumors, Marco rightly intimasi with quanda. His pen does not tremble with fear, but with awe. At the end, his notes stop abruptly, as if aware that one more sentence might unveil too much. No more can be written, he says. Some truths belong only to shadows, and perhaps that is the greatest secret of all. Marco Polo may never have crossed the harem threshold, but the harem crossed into him. Meanwhile, in medieval Baghdad, sunset was not an end, but the first act of another life. As golden light slipped beyond the Tigris, the city breathed deep, ready to awaken a world beneath the day's weight. The realms of scholars, scribes, ministers, and courtiers faded softly, replaced by something more fluid, more human. Baghdad at night was almost another city, glowing not from the caliph's commands, but from the warm flicker of oil lamps and moonlight's tender brush. The heavy daytime heat, often thick enough to slow thought itself, finally softened. A cool breeze swept through narrow alleys, whispered over great bridges, carrying faint scents of spices. Horsting Meer and river mist. Doors creaked open as merchants rolled out woven mats beneath lantern glow. Lantern sellers were among the first to appear, kindling dozens of flames until the markets shimmered like constellations fallen low. What daylight hid, the night's soft dark revealed. Families emerged after long hours sheltered from the sun. Young men wandered toward busy squares, chasing music and laughter. Women visited stalls that operated only after dusk-offering perfumes, dyes, and cosmetics banned in the sunlit hours. The city's edges blurred as rich, poor, foreign, and local drifted, together woven into the same nocturnal tapestry by darkness's anonymity. Above the murmur rose the night caller's fruit, sellers chanting prices in melodic cadence, sweet makers tapping trays to lure patrons, storytellers warming voices like musicians tuning instruments. Baghdad's night markets were more than commerce, they were theatre. Every sound pulsed rhythm. Every corner promised fresh sights. Even shadows told stories of their own. Travelers arriving for the first time often thought they had stumbled into a festival. But the locals knew the truth. This was everyday life. Baghdad's glory flourished beneath the stars, blossoming fully after sundown. Before the night market stirred fully, the lantern lighters began their quiet procession, men as vital to the city's night as merchants or musicians. Marco Polo himself wrote that Baghdad glowed as if stars had come to rest on its streets. He was no exaggerator. Lantern lighters moved through bazaars carrying long poles tipped with small flames, touching each wick with deliberate grace. Watching them was like seeing constellations born first. Lamps hung from wood beams and archways, casting warm halos across stone pathways. Others swung gently on chains, swaying in the evening breeze. True beauty came from colored glass lanterns, ruby red, emerald green, amber gold, crafted by artisans, merging science with poetry. When lit, these glowing rivers of stained light transformed alleyways into vibrant stages, turning the ordinary into moments of wonder. Children followed the lantern lighters with wide-eyed wonder, as if they were magicians weaving spells. They giggled softly when the flickering flames cast dancing shadows that waltzed across the walls and cobblestones. The older residents observed with quiet smiles, recognizing this ritual not as a novel spectacle, but as an enduring promise. The market had opened, the night had begun, and the city was unveiling its most enchanting face. By the time the last wick was kissed to life, Baghdad's landscape transformed utterly. What moments before had been warm clay, striped awnings, and dusty stones now became a luminous labyrinth, shimmering with mystery. Lanterns cast soft pools of light upon hanging carpets, copper bowls, silk scarves, and towering pyramids of figs and dates. Even the river shimmered in response, reflecting hundreds of tiny flames, as if in conversation with the night's magic. Night guards took their positions, leaning on spears or curved sabers, but even their stern silhouettes softened beneath the gentle glow. The markets by night felt safer than many cities by day, an intentional investment by the Kaifs, who saw commerce under moonlight as the pulse of a thriving civilization. Merchants trusted this protection enough to display their most delicate treasures after dusk, glittering jewelry, fine silverwork, exquisite ceramique, freshly penned manuscripts, rare herb, even books copied only hours earlier by the city's scholars. These lanterns did not just illuminate. They transformed the market into a realm of wonder. secrets felt possible here, deals destined. Every passerby seemed a character in a story waiting to unravel. As the early night settled, the real pulse of the market awakened. If the lanterns gave the streets their glow, the spices wove their soul. Long before you glimpsed the stalls, the air itself became a fragrant tapestry, a map of the Silk Road, in scent and memory. Travelers later described the first breath of Baghdad's night market as intoxicating, a perfume vivid enough to transport one to another dimension. As you wandered through the market, spices greeted you like old friends, cinnamon from Ceylon, pepper from India, saffron from Persia, frankincense from Arabia, ginger carried by months-long caravans across harsh deserts and mighty mountains. Hidden to were treasures unique to the abbasid world, grains of paradise, long pepper, sumac bright as crushed rubies, black cumin rumored to cure all but death itself. Merchants arranged their spices with theatrical pride pyramids of golden turmeric glowing softly in the lantern light. Powders blended into swirling patterns, as if colors alone could seduce buyers before a single word was spoken. The boldest vendors burned their finest blends over charcoal braziers, letting fragrant clouds drift silently through the crowd like unseen salesmen. These spice sellers were storytellers as much as traders. Each had a tale woven with their wares. A man crushing cloves might speak of stormy coasts near Gujarat. Another tying cinnamon, bundles whispered of a phoenix nesting in fragrant groves. The rarer the spice, the more elaborate the legend, trading on stories as surely as coins. Nearby, food vendors thrived with these aromas as their backdrop. They simmered lamb kebabs dusted in cumin, ladled lentil stews rich with coriander, fried dough coated in sesame and honey. Even the simplest street foods gained extraordinary character, flavored by the marque's fragrant pulse. Travelers often confessed to spending more coins on snacks than souvenirs, drawn by the night's vibrant flavors. But spices offered more than just taste. They constructed social maps through scent. Follow the smoky cardamom and you'd find bustling tea houses. Track the sweet anise fragrance and you'd stumble upon poets reciting beneath canvas canopies. Wander toward musk and sandalwood, and you entered the domain of perfume sellers and apothecaries crafting remedies by lamplight. In Baghdad's night markets, spices did not merely flavor food or air. They guided wanderers, enchanted the senses, and invited deeper exploration into the city's heartbeat beneath the stars. By the time lanterns blazed their brightest and spices perfumed every corner, the markets became a crossroads where half the known world seemed to gather. If daytime belonged to officials and guildmasters, the night belonged to travelers, nomads, sailors, scholars, fortune seekers, and merchants from horizons so far they seemed mythical to everyday Baghdadis. Nestled on the Tigris at the center of caravan routes linking India, China, Africa, Persia, Anatolia, and at the commercial heartbeat of the Islamic Golden Age, at night that heartbeat echoed loudest. Lanterns lit the stalls of local vendors and arrival of travelers who had journeyed months, sometimes years, to the Abbasid capital. A silk merchant from Khorasan unfolded shimmering, bolts woven like moonlight, each softer than a breath. Nearby, a Yemen incense trader displayed frankincense nuggets the size of walnuts, smoke curling upward like visible prayers. Indian ship captains, faintly salty from the sea, arrived with pepper, coconuts, and delicate figurines carved from rare woods. African Merchants from the Swahili coast offered ivory combs, gold dust, and vividly dyed cloth in bold geometric patterns. But it wasn't only goods that travelled here, it was stories. Persian astronomers debated star charts with Andalusian scholars who claimed the night sky above Cordoba was different. Berber caravan leaders recounted crossing the Sahara, describing dunes as vast as palaces. Chinese envoys brought lacquer smooth enough to reflect lantern light like water. And if luck favored you, tales came of distant cities where fireworks ignited skies brighter than Baghdad's own lanterns. Visitors did not merely shop or trade. They mingled, flowing like a living river through twisting alleys. 5 languages could fill a minute: Arabic, Persian, Greek, Turkic, Swahili, sometimes even Chinese. Foreigners declared no city in the world seemed so alive, so layered, or so welcoming by night, and Baghdad embraced all. The night market was an equalizer. Under lantern glow, rank and homeland faded away. A fisherman might stand shoulder to shoulder with a merchant commanding caravans from Damascus to Samarkand. Trade wove friendships, stories forged bonds, deals nurtured futures. As night deepened, the crowds further, frightened getter edit. If merchants brought goods, artists supplied the night market's soul. As shadows thickened and lamps burned bright, poets, musicians, storytellers. And wandering, performers spilled onto squares like sparks from a fire. In medieval Baghdad, art belonged not to palaces or scholars' halls alone. It blossomed in streets, shining brightest beneath oil lamps. Poets were often first to gather an audience. Standing on raised carpets or overturned crates, they recited verses flowing like silk, romantic, mystical, or sharp enough to mock corrupt officials and boastful merchants alike. Their words carried the essence of Arabic literature shaped by al-Mutanabi, Abu Nuwas, and countless lesser-known talents who illuminated the night for a few copper coins. Lovers drifted near, pretending to browse, but secretly listening for lines that echoed their deepest hearts. Nearby, musicians plucked strings, struck tambourines, and played flutes so soft their melodies wove seamlessly into the night breeze. There, music shifted with the crowd slow and smoky as evening began. Vibrant and fast as markets swelled, then warm and nostalgic after midnight when only the most devoted remained. A learned player could draw 50 listeners without speaking a word. Music itself was invitation, drawing all closer. Then came the storytellers, the Hakawatis, who commanded the largest circles. Children sat wide-eyed at their feet. Adults lingered around the edges, feigning disinterest but captivated all the same. Their tales blended myth, history, and fantasy, journeys through deserts with Sinbad, encounters with spirits in abandoned ruins, caves disguising themselves to walk among the poor. These stories were living things. Each storyteller added, subtracted, embellished the night, did not just preserve legends, it reinvented them. Sufi mystics moved silently among the performers, chanting verses of divine love that drifted like smoke between stalls. Sometimes they whirled in short, meditative dances, casting spinning shadows across the cobblestones, weaving the sacred into the night's vibrant tapestry. Philosophers from the house of wisdom occasionally drifted into these circles, turning the bustling market into an impromptu academy where gentle debates on ethics or the stars unfolded right beside melon sellers and spice merchants. In Baghdad, the night market breathed as living theatre, no curtains, no raised stage, just people, voices, instruments. And a city that held art as everyone's quiet inheritance. In most medieval cities, night whispered of rest alone. But in Baghdad, heart of the Abbasid Caliphate and cradle of the Islamic Golden Age, night called for study. Nowhere did this glow more softly than in the bookstores, glittering treasures along the market's busiest lane. Beneath rows of oil lamps swaying gentle, scholars, scribes, translators, and wandering seekers gathered around stacks of manuscripts as if appraising jewels under moonlight's hush. Books stood as Baghdad's deepest luxury, yet its most tender addiction. The house of wisdom, the empire's intellectual crown, hummed long past sundown. Scholars emerged from its halls alive with fresh thoughts, wandering straight into the night markets to argue softly. Seek rare volumes, or purchase pages still warm from the scribe's hand before returning to their own candlelit labors. The bookstores wove seamless into the great library S-folder public annex where discourse and learning flowed as naturally as trade. Booksellers crafted their work like quiet performers. They arranged volumes of poetry, philosophy, medicine, astronomy, mathematics, and Greek texts reborn in Arabic with deliberate grace, spines catching lantern light in golden whispers. A skilled seller did not merely trade pages. He guided like a healer recommending reads, reciting cherished lines, weighing authors' voices, matching text to soul as if prescribing balm for the spirit. One stall might cradle Aristotle's wisdom, journeyed through tongues Greek to Syriac, Syriac to Arabic, each layer blooming new insight. Another unveiled Al-Khwarizmi's algebra, ink still fragrant and alive. A third gathered poetry's Bloom's Rumi's depths, Al-Mutanabi's fire, or verses from a young local voice dreaming of discovery. Travellers murmured that even the firm resolved to browse alone melted away, leaving, with 2 volumes cradled close, unbidden companions for the night. Yet true enchantment stirred among the scholars themselves. Unmistakable in their glow eyes alight, fingers tracing calligraphy's elegant curves, voices rising soft in excitement as debates kindled. A mathematician might ponder infinity with a physician. A historian weave entailles of ancient Persia. A young student leap forth with verse etched flawless in memory. The night market became a university unbound by walls, its fervor drawing all near. Even humble folk lingered, pulled by scholars quiet, fire not grasping every thread, but sensing learning as celebration, communal breath as natural as dawn. Under those lanterns, amid ink's faint sigh and parchment's hush, Baghdad refused to let the mind surrender to sleep. If lanterns kindled the market's light, and poets lent their voice, food vendors gifted the heartbeat. Long before it was mere marketplace, the night market unfolded as endless feast. After days formal tables faded, true flavors emerged smoky wisps. Spicy depths, sweet sighs, sizzles drawing near, irresistible as rivers pull. Every shadowed corner hummed, with fire's patient glow and fragrances weave. Follow charcoal's murmur, and grilled lamb kebabs awaited. Sputtering soft over open flames, dusted cumin and coriander till air itself warmed the tongue. Nearby, cooks chopped onions, parsley in rhythmic cadence, blending into market's lullaby. Drizzled lemon sharp, wrapped in bread's warm fold. These became evenings unspoken right humble for labourers, sublime for thinkers. Stew sellers stirred vast copper cauldrons, brimming lentils, chickpeas, meat simmered tender through hours. Steam rose ethereal into lantern haze, like spirits gathering gentle. Patrons queued with clay bowls cupped reverent, savoring broth laced cinnamon, pepper, garlic's earth. Some stirred dried lime's sour kiss, Iraqi whisper pausing, bites mid-air, eyes widening soft in delight. Sweet makers crowned the revelry. Tables spilled dates almond stuffed, sesame pastries gleaming, fried dough honey-drenched, rosewater confections fragrant enough to rival perfume's allure. Syrups slow drip onto warm pastries, halted steps instinctive. Dessert's quiet theatre, children tugged sleeves eager. Adults feigned single tastes, circling back moments later for more. Yet tea vendors held the true heart. Kettles hissed serpent soft, pouring dark, brews cardamom kissed into tiny cups vast in savor. Tea quenched, not thirst alone, but wove wakefulness to converse deep. Debate stars or verses, linger beneath lamps' patient watch. One pot fueled hours of poetry's flow, politics' murmur, astronomy's gaze, gossip's gentle thread. Other delights, threaded alleys, soft-roasted chickpeas crackling iron pans. Melon, chilled river cool, saffron rice cakes banana leaf wrapped, yogurt mint-crushed flowing cool. Everywhere, food bridged souls, ... Strangers sharing bites unasked, vendors slipping extras to young hands, scholar beside fisherman on weathered bench, elbows brushing, honey lingering on fingers. In Baghdad, night fed not bodies alone, but city's woven spirit. Beyond, bright stalls and thronged squares lay deeper layers, hushed and veiled, almost secretive. If lantern, bazaars unveiled the city's face, these shadowed corners pulsed its quiet truth. Here, beneath dimmer lamps flickering soft, healers, mystics, fortune-tellers, apothecaries wove work blending medicine's grace. Superstition's veil, tradition's ancient breath. Healers drew eyes unbidden, seated amid herb, baskets earth-scented. Memory-laden dried, mint sighing cool, lavenders calm, myrrh's resin deep. Fennel seeds, bitter almonds, roots caravan-borne from Zagros peaks, mist-shrouded. Tools stayed simple, mortar whispering grind, pestles circling patient, copper bowls gleaming faint. Reputations wove complex one trained in Baghdad's forward hospitals where healing outpaced worlds. Others folklore, rooted generation deep. Most danced both realms' edge. They blended tinctures stomach soothing, pace wound binding, teas sleep welcoming, powders temper easing. Some murmured Quranic grace midwork. Others chanted Greek healing as verse lilting. Patrons sought not method's tale, but relief's soft embrace. Steps away, fortune-tellers cradled carpets symbol-etched, talismans glinting, bowls cracked for scrying's gaze. Palms red in candle waver, shells cast rippling fate, dreams unraveled gentle, journeys foreseen. Elders pierced with knowing eyes. Youth silver-tongued, charm. Seekers approached half-doubting, half-yearning, curiosity's tide, ever drawing. Baghdad cradled knowledge vast, yet mystery's space too. Even scholars whispered, safe paths or prosperous unions veiled. Apothecaries bridged, healer magician's realm. Shelves brimmed jars powder-hued, oils shimmering, perfumes alluring, insects dried, river stones curious. Remedies flowed, Abbot loved draughts, ward amulets, evil eye rites chased shadows. Patrons spanned anxious traders to poets inspiration bound. These corners hushed distinct from market's hum. Voices fell to murmurs soft, lanterns wavered dreamlike, steps slowed reverent, not idle. Every balm, portent, charm bore weight profound. In these dim nooks, incense drifting slow. Baghdad, unveiled tender truth, knowledge mended flesh, mystery soothed spirit's ache. And night held both in equal grace. No matter how alive the night felt, dawn always approached with gentle, inevitable certainty. In the night markets of medieval Baghdad, the last hour before sunrise held its own quiet enchantment, softer, slower, touched with a sweet melancholy. The lanterns continued their glow, but their light began to wane as the sky brightened. The oil inside grew thin, the flames shrinking, as if the city itself exhaled tired, yet content after a night of stories. Trade, song, and feasting. Vendors began their tender ritual of closing. Spice sellers swathed their vibrant pyramids in linen cloths. Sweet makers poured the last amber, threads of honey from copper pans, letting it cool like liquid gold. Tea vendors emptied kettles, their hissing fading softly like the closing notes of a prolonged performance. Perfume sellers clicked bottles of rosewater and musk, mindful not to waste a drop each sent too precious, even at dawn. The poets' voices softened. Musicians set their instruments aside. Even the storytellers, known to weave tales for hours without weariness, paused mid-tale with promises to continue the next night. The crowd's thin scholars drifted home, fingers stained with ink, new books tucked beneath arms. Travelers slipped away toward roadside inns. Families gathered their final morning treats. Street cats, fierce and triumphant, claimed leftovers with plaintive meows. The market no longer felt like a celebration, but a memory folding itself neatly away. The river was first to mourn. The Tigris shimmered pale silver. Lantern reflections blurred into soft streaks before melting into darkness. Fishermen appeared, with nets in hand, greeting the night, vendors as if from opposite worlds, one ending, one beginning. The scent of bread baking in nearby ovens whispered that Baghdad's life by day was stirring. For those who had lived it fully, the transition was bittersweet. The night markets were Baghdad, at its most alive a place where merchants, mystics, scholars, artists, sailors, and wanderers shared streets without hesitation or rank. By day, the city sparkled brilliant and grand. By night, it was intimate, woven close in soft shadows. When oil lamps dimmed for the last time, it felt like waking from a dream you wished to hold forever. As the sun crested above slate rooftops, the last vendors walked home, empty baskets in hand, but hearts full. They knew that once heat waned and shadows lengthened, Baghdad would bloom anew. The night did not die. It only slept, restful, strong beneath the stars, resumed its timeless beat. At 16, Gaius Julius Caesar discovered that childhood could vanish in the span of a single afternoon. His father died, suddenly not in battle, nor disgrace but quietly, almost politely, leaving no scandal or explanation behind. Yet, for Caesar, this calm departure ignited a storm that would reshape his life. In a republic obsessed with lineage and alliances, a father was more than a parental shield. Without that shield, Caesar stood exposed to Rome's most perilous forces. The first days after his father's death brimmed with ritual, visitors, and whispered condolences. Yet, beneath the mourning, murmured an unspoken anxiety. The Julia family was ancient, noble, proud, but nobility did not guarantee power. They were respected, yes, but politically fragile. And in 85 BCE, Rome was a city where fragility invited scrutiny. Caesar observed relatives measuring words, household slaves moving nervously his mother, Aurelia, steadying the family with iron composure soon to win her renown. She grasped the grip of Lucius Cornelius Sulla, a man whose smile said nothing, whose fury meant exile or worse. Sulla had flooded the city with proscriptions lists marking enemies for execution. The elite trembled, families hid sons. Amid grief, Caesar found himself a marked target not for his deeds, but by association. The threat came from a marriage. Soon, before his father's passing, Caesar had been betrothed to Cornelia, daughter of Cinna, one of Sulla's fiercest rivals. Once a political advantage, the match now painted a fiery target on the young man's back. Even minute, Cicero recalled his restless roll gaze. He paced the family atrium with solemnity beyond his years, listening more than speaking, learning which doors in Rome were safe to knock upon and which meant death. Loss forced Caesar into adulthood before his time. His protection severed. He found himself caught in a political crossfire, shifting from promising boy to potential threat. Grief spawned a quiet ambition born of vulnerability. Soon, Rome would notice. By 17, Rome was transformed from familiar city of debates and markets into a place of whispers, where neighbors avoided eyes, and every step behind felt like a warning. Lucius Cornelius Sulla, victorious in civil wars, ruled with chilling ruthlessness. His prescriptions decreed who lived and who would be hunted like prey. Heads adorned the forum, stark reminders to obey. Caesar, by marriage linked to enemies, navigated this lethal world. His wife Cornelia's father was slain, rival Cinna. His uncle by marriage was Marius, Sulla's most hated foe. To Sulla's eyes, Caesar was guilty by blood, lacking need for act. Dictator gave Caesar chance, renown nearly dissolved the sway of his life. Many young nobles obeyed swiftly, valuing survival over honor. But Caesar refused. Imagine a boy of 17, newly orphaned, not yet famed, standing silent yet firm before one of Rome's fiercest men and saying, "No, Grange, drum, qui est resolut refusal?" Sulla's fury thundered. He stripped Caesar of priesthood, seized inheritance and dowry, and bound him near the top of the death list. Caesar became hunted. Friends recoiled, supporters vanished. A single misstep could end his fledgling story. Yet, something remarkable stirred intervention. Vestal priestesses, women Sulla dared not challenge, petitioned for mercy. Influential relatives whispered in the dictator's ear. Reluctantly, Sulla spared the boy, but with a chilling prophecy in this Caesar. Many Marius dwell. Sulla sensed ambition and dangerous charm burning in youth's heart. And so Caesar lived not safely, not beneath Rome's forgiving gaze. His refusal cost him forever, as marked. The city he loved turned trap. Escape was his only path. With Sulla's wrath hanging as a sharpened blade, Caesar understood Rome held no future for him. Survival meant flight. Appeal meant disgrace. Resistance meant death. At 17, with nothing but name, loyal few, and threadbare clothes, Caesar slipped from his birth city, crossing Italian countryside, not as noble youth, but fugitive masking identity, moving by night, avoiding loyal patrols. This journey shaped him. He learned to sleep light, move swift, read danger in trembling leaf and distant torchlight. The boy once steeped in poetry, rhetoric, now mastered survival quiet, resolve hardening within, a shadow that would one day terrify foes. Caesar's exile took him east, toward Asia Minor, where Roman legions guarded coastal riches and rebellious mountains. There he enlisted not as titled noble, but as young refugee seeking protection and new path. Far from Rome's shadowed marble halls, family name carried little weight, status mattered even less. What endured was discipline's quiet forge, endurance's steady breath, courage's unyielding flame. And Caesar embraced them all from the first dawn. Soldiers later recalled his composure impossible for one so young, a patrician youth amid weathered legionaries. He marched long hours without murmur, slept upon earth's unyielding chill without sigh, trained with gravity beyond his years. He studied the legions as once he pored over rhetoric scrolls, each detail a thread to future command. In this, time proved him wise. For the first time, Caesar beheld empire's military veil the grind of garrison watch through endless nights. Peril of frontier patrols threading mist-veiled hills, harsh landscapes yielding Rome's reach through blood and will. He watched commanders parley with local kings in torchlit tents, temper rebellious ranks with measured steel, balance brutality's shadow and diplomacy's graceful hand to hold fragile peace. These years held no glamour's fleeting glow, yet wove transformation deep. They drew him from Rome's elite orbit, teaching how soldiers breathed, marched, clashed, and faded into soil. No general's laurels crowned him yet, no statesman's voice echoed forums, not even rising stars' faint gleam. But exile gifted clarity beyond safety's fragile hold. He glimpsed worlds beyond Rome's facades, etching truths eternal. Strength warded the soul. Timidity found no mercy in Rome's ungentle gaze. Asia Minor unfolded no polished marble dream. Rugged, fickle, teeming foes Rome preferred to veil in forgetfulness. For teenage Caesar, it rose as brutal classroom, lessons keener than any tutor's measured word. Amid hills cloaked in dawn mist and coastal plains whispering sea-salt winds, war breathed not as distant verse, but living force violent, chaotic, strangely alluring in its raw pulse. His first true trial stirred in campaign against tribes defying Roman yoke. No grand clashes of legions arrayed, flawless. Ambushes uncoiled from shadowed ravines, skirmishes sharp as daggers kiss. Desperate charges through passes narrow where survival claimed each breath alone. Caesar, scarce 18, plunged heart-deep with boldness startling veterans forged in fiercer fires. He fought not as noble chasing glory's hollow echo, but one bearing proof to forge truth indeed. In one, phrase haze, as standard-bearer faltered amid arrows' hiss. Caesar seized eagle's staff, raised everyone, search forth, reclestid, yet brilliant. Legion rallied round, foes shattered like mist before gale. Officers marked the youth's fire. Courage, amid chaos first coin of Roman lead-and, Caesar spent it boundless. Yet bravery bloomed not sole gift. In camps, after battle's roar faded to ember hush, he absorbed all, commander's words stirring troops like wind, through ranks, rewards portioned wise, disobedience tempered firm. Etraced, fear loyalty's delicate, weave mastery he would claim unmatched among Rome's sons. Diplomacy, to he shadowed missions to allied kings, negotiations unfolding subtle as moonlit play. When to incline head, flatter soft, menace veiled. Teenage exile, Rome's unwelcome shadow, drank war and statecraft's roots from men who lived there measure daily. Camaraderie sealed deepest change. Legions cared not for patrician blood. Soldier weighed kin by valor, endurance, fealty alone. Caesar won regard through shared wound and toil, beside men unknowing his name moons prior. Returning campward post-campaign. Something stirred within frightened boy, fleeing Sulla yielded to youth-tasting clash, admiration earned, destiny's faint whisper, army granted shelter. War, purpose profound. As Asia, miners' campaigns lingered through seasons turn, Caesar's name wove soft through ranks not pampered, noble at war's play. But trusted soul amid muds cling, rains chill, blood's warm seep. For youth stripped privilege, city hunted, this acceptance outshone lost titles. It seeded leadership's rout, drawing legions across continents in time. Caesar, bent to discipline, swift as river to sea. Dawn found him, risen with veterans grizzled, marching blister sun and bowed, pack-borne own hand, though offers flowed. He shared rations course, slept ground's embrace, laughed crude jests ringing true, heard battle yarns spun round fire's glow. Legionaries etched him young, yet kindred good-hearted, keen-glanced, hardships willing kin, rare bloom in noble veins. Soldiers marked it keen. Yet endurance alone unveiled not all. Charisma stirred beneath strange draw at 18, 19's tender edge. Speech bent ears near, encouragement rang, true not command's whip. Courage praised open, errors forgiven hush, credit claimed so earned. Humility twined, confidence rank and files quiet, elixir. Officers glimpsed mind's edge, tactics grasped swift, maps pondered deep, queries strategic sharp, terrains feel innate. One patrol, ambush-scented air strike, cohort spared slaughter's maw, tailies rippled. Centurions grizzled turned eyes appraising, adaptability crowned strength supreme. Coastal posts summoned, diplomacy he wove seamless. Frontier rough, grit met unflinching, translators needed, Greek offered spare. Envoi Khaled shadowed king, task humble or grand, swelled skills arsenals silent. Quietly, steadily, he learned Romans led as one among, not above. Loyal and born, he forced step on step, 15 warmth, grave solemn huff. By 19's gentle turn, Caesar transcended fugitive's veil. Rising, force emerged hardship molded, war honed, potential's vastness donning soft. Early soldiering birthed, not mere haven, but glory's first tender taste. Amid desperate chaos, where survival heroism blurred heartbeat quick. Asia, minor campaign uncoiled ambush, fierce foe seizing steep earth, roads constricted, assault sudden, merciless. Roman reled, shields lugs from ahead. Panic, rippled ranks disciplines thread, fraying to route's shadow. Caesar, 19 scarce past, held fast retreat's lure. Tailies verge true lo falen. Elder centurion, wounded mid-lines. No man's land claiming sure. Abandoned spelled doom. Rescue mirrored it near. Hesitation, fled he surged shield high. Chaos cleaved reckless resolute. Arrows scored earth near. Spears glanced shields curve. Impossibly, he reached. Hoisted armored form, bore back through storm to Roman hold. Foe pressed. Harem. Comrades roared rally. Defeat's tide sparked courage's flame. For this, Corona Civica graced him moat crown woven, Rome's honors high. Bestowed, soul on lives Roman saved, in Frey's heart. Unlike baubles fleeting, privileges etched eternal public acclaim, games seats reserved, deference standing. Picturit serentinail, Welshon. Sulla hunted oak-leaf settling brow for officers seasoned, missed cloaking valor's hush. Soldiers cheered him, officers praised him. Even the sternest veterans nodded with respect. Caesar had entered the army as a nobody, but through one daring act, he became a name worthy of remembrance. That honor, did more than lift him, it ignited something within. For the first time, Caesar truly saw how courage could bend fate, how boldness could carve a path through seemingly impossible odds. He tasted recognition, loyalty, momentum, and with it, he understood a vital truth. Rome rewarded courage far more than obedience. The crown of oak leaves was not just decoration. It was a prophecy. As Caesar moved through his late teens into his 20s, his military career offered more than discipline and bravery. It bestowed connections, education, and deeper insight into how real power moved beyond marble facades. Asia Minor was not merely a battlefield. It was a crossroads of cultures, kings, merchants, philosophers, and political schemers. With eyes sharp and ambition keener, Caesar absorbed everything like a sponge parched. Whenever the army paused in a wealthy coastal city, Caesar drifted toward its elites. He dined with Greek magistrates, observed local councils' debates, listened to philosophers argue beneath shaded porticos, and studied how charismatic leaders shaped opinion without drawing swords. In these moments, he learned that true power did not always roar. Sometimes it whispered, questioned, charmed, and persuaded. These were skills that would one day let him dominate the Roman Senate without lifting a finger. His natural charm blossomed early. Even as a young man, biographers would later call it suavitas, a blend of elegance, eloquence, and warmth. He remembered names, asked thoughtful questions, laughed easily. People liked him. More importantly, they trusted him. Officers began sending him to represent them with allied rulers, respectful but not submissive, confident yet never arrogant, diplomatic without dullness. Caesar honed his personality like a tool, soft when necessary, sharp when warranted. He polished his Greek, the tongue of the learned East. Scholars recalled him practicing speeches in evening quiet, shaping rhetoric well before his first public address in Rome. Even in exil, but Esmim also taught darker lessons. Politics, there was a game of masks and shadows. Caesar witnessed alliances forged over wine, dissolved by dawn. He saw commanders flatter kings, while secretly plotting their downfall. He learned that a single rumor could undo a man's fate. These observations etched themselves deep. He vowed never to trust appearances, never reveal his full plans, and never underestimate perception's power. Caesar entered Asia Minor a fugitive struggling to survive. He was becoming something more dangerous, a young man learning to sway minds, win hearts, and navigate politics with the ease of one born to rule. The sword taught courage, society, control. By his early 20s, word drifted cautiously through eastern camps. Sulla was dying. The dictator who cast Caesar into exile, who executed hundreds and crushed thousands under iron will, was withdrawing into illness, confined to a villa in Campania. For Caesar, the rumor was more than gossip, it was a signal. The city that had been a cage began loosening. When Sulla finally died, in 78 BCE, Caesar felt the world shift beneath him. The fear that had haunted his youth softened, becoming manageable. Powerful men who once shunned him reached out discreetly. Old family friends sent letters hinting safely. Officers in Asia Minor suggested a young man like him need not waste life forever on outposts. So Caesar prepared for the journey west, not as a boy fleeing terror, but a young man bearing scars, skills, and a sharpened purpose. His return, road mirrored exile's path in reverse, but everything felt changed. Cities once foreign, now whispered familiar politics. Mountain passes called on soldiers' instinct. His bearing held newfound confidence absent on departure. Even companions sensed it. Caesar no longer fled fate. He approached it. Crossing the Adriatic, glimpsing Italy's coast, something stirred within relief, pride. A flicker of vengeance intertwined. Rome had cast him away, sought to break him. Yet here he was, returning stronger, tempered by hardship, carrying honors earned not by birth alone, but blood and bravery. He entered quietly, no trumpet fanfare, no heralded return. Rome remained deadly, fractious scars of civil war still robot, no longer ruled by the man who wished him dead. Caesar visited kin, rejoined his mother Aurelia, walked streets once lost in fear, but a change was irreversible. He saw Rome's rot clearer, now its corruption, fragility, leaders easily swayed by fear, charm, spectacle, or ambition. He left Rome as hunted boy. He returned as man who understood power, its peril and promise. Yet the Republic had not healed. It teetered, riddled with resentments from wars past. Veterans, loyal to Sulla, gripped politics. Senators whispered guardedly, dreading new unrest. Corruption oozed through courts. Ambition poisoned speech. Caesar noticed cracks at once. The city was unsteady, vulnerable, and for the first time he imagined not mere survival, but shaping Rome itself. But ambition alone faltered. Caesar needed influence, training, a stage. Returning to what he knew best, he embraced rhetoric. Still young, still relatively unknown, still shadowed by exile, he began practicing law as advocate, his voice sharpened to carve through crowds like blade through silk. He tackled cases others shunned, corrupt governors, mistreated allies, victims of political spite. Romans noticed his fire, his boldness, his refusal to bow before power. The verlis even règle. Opponents were wealthy, connected, dangerous. But mountain-hardened courage made hostile juries bearable. Compared to spears and bloodshed, Rome's political peril seemed pale. At the same time, he built alliances, small beginnings, befriending young politicians disillusioned by aged aristocracy. He joined intellectual circles, attended sumptuous banquets, charmed influential matrons. He excelled still at winning hearts. Every handshake planted seeds. Every conversation wove subtle networks. His image grew, a rising star tempered by tyranny, unbowed by fear. Yet, beneath it all, Sulla's bitter prophecy lingered. In this Caesar, many Marius dwell. He never forgot those words. He embraced them. His teen years, birthed in fear, loss, and flight, now closed with quiet confidence, clear purpose, and a vision of Rome transformed under his hand. The boy who fled power's shadow would not run again.